Have you ever stopped to think how the journey of a single family thousands of years ago could end up shaping the world we live in today? I mean, honestly, it's wild. We hear so much about the Middle East, about Israel and conflicts and prophecy, but it all really traces back to one old man and a promise so outrageous you'd think it was ripped from a fantasy novel. This is the story of the 12 tribes of Israel, not just a dusty piece of history, but a living narrative that still colors our politics, our faith, even our daily headlines. And trust me, by the end of this video, you might see your own life in a whole new way. So let's roll it all the way back to a time before there was even an Israel, before there were tribes, before there was a chosen people. It all starts with a man named Abraham living comfortably in a place called Ur of the Chaldeans. In what is modern-day Iraq, he wasn't looking for adventure. He wasn't staging a rebellion or trying to start a new religion. But then something happened that flipped his entire world upside down. God spoke to him, "Leave your country, your people, your father's household, and go to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you." Imagine hearing that at 75 years old. Most people are thinking about slowing down, retiring, enjoying grandkids. Abraham packs up his entire life, takes his wife Sarah, his nephew Lot, and all his servants and livestock, and sets off into the unknown. Now, here's where I always pause, because a lot of us think we'd trust God if He gave us a clear sign. Like, "Sure God, I'll do it, just write it in the sky for me." But Abraham had no GPS, no pictures of the promised land, no Instagram stories from influencers telling him how cool Canaan was. Just a voice and a promise. When they finally reached this land called Canaan, God repeats the promise, "To your descendants, I will give this land." But there's one massive problem. Abraham doesn't have any descendants. He and Sarah are old, way past childbearing. In human terms, this is game over. Yet God takes Abraham outside, tells him to look up at the night sky, and says, "Count the stars, if indeed you can count them. So shall your offspring be." And Abraham believes. How faith sets the stage for everything. That's actually one of the things that stuns me most. Abraham's faith wasn't passive. It meant leaving everything behind, taking literal steps into a desert with no guarantee except God's word. And honestly, I wonder sometimes, what would I have done? I mean, I've hesitated on far smaller risks, a job change, moving cities, starting a YouTube channel. But Abraham's obedience launched a chain reaction that's still unfolding. Eventually, when Abraham was 100 years old and Sarah was 90, their miracle son Isaac was born. They named him Laughter, because Sarah literally laughed when she first heard she'd have a baby at her age. Isaac grows up, marries Rebekah, and after years of waiting, they have twin sons, Esau and Jacob. And that's where the story starts getting seriously messy, like a family drama on steroids. Jacob the schemer becomes Israel the nation. Esau is the older brother, a rugged hunter. Jacob is quieter, a mama's boy who likes staying close to the tents. Their dad Isaac favors Esau, while their mom Rebekah dotes on Jacob. This sets up the perfect storm. One day, Esau comes back starving from the fields. Jacob, always scheming, offers him a bowl of stew in exchange for Esau's birthright, the special inheritance that includes the covenant promise. And shockingly, Esau says yes, over lentil stew. Later, when Isaac is old and nearly blind, Jacob and Rebekah conspire to trick him into giving Jacob the firstborn blessing meant for Esau. They cover Jacob's arms with goat hair to mimic Esau's hairy skin. Isaac is fooled, blesses Jacob, and when Esau finds out, he's furious. So furious Jacob has to flee for his life. A real-life turning point. Jacob's ladder now hears a part of the story that's always moved me. On his journey into exile, Jacob sleeps in the wilderness with a stone for a pillow. That night, he dreams of a stairway reaching up to heaven with angels ascending and descending. At the top, God repeats the promise made to Abraham and Isaac. "I am the Lord, the land on which you lie, I will give to you and your descendants." Jacob wakes up terrified and amazed, saying, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it." Have you ever had a moment like that? When your world feels completely uncertain, maybe you've messed up, maybe you're running from consequences, but then suddenly you sense God is still there with you. That was Jacob's moment. He wasn't a perfect man, but God was still writing his story. Jacob wrestles for a new name years later. After marriage and children, and years of working under his tricky uncle Laban, Jacob finally heads home. On the way, he spends the night alone and ends up physically wrestling, with a mysterious man until daybreak. This isn't just a brawl. By the end, Jacob realizes he's been grappling with God himself. He clings on, demanding a blessing, and God changes his name to Israel, meaning he struggles with God. Think about that. The entire nation's name comes from this one night of wrestling, struggling, refusing to let go. In many ways, it sums up the entire story of the Jewish people, struggling, holding on, yet blessed. 12 sons, 12 tribes, countless lessons. Jacob, now Israel, ends up having 12 sons through for different women. This complicated family becomes the foundation of the 12 tribes of Israel. From Leah come Reuben, Simeon, Levi, ancestor of priests, Judah, ancestor of kings, including Jesus, Issachar, and Zebulun. From Rachel, his true love, come Joseph and Benjamin. From Rachel's servant Bilhah, come Dan and Naphtali. From Leah's servant Zilpah, come Gad and Asher. Each son's life and legacy becomes a blueprint for his tribe's future. Some are marked by fate, others by jealousy, violence, or compromise. It's like looking into a mirror of humanity, strong, flawed, yet still woven into God's bigger plan. So where did we leave off, right? Jacob, now named Israel, has 12 sons who will each become the father of a tribe. But life for this growing family doesn't stay peaceful for long. Their story is about to take another sharp, unexpected turn, one that will shape not only their destiny, but the destiny of millions who would one day look back to call them their ancestors. Jealous brothers and a slave in Egypt. Let's focus on Joseph, Israel's favorite son, the firstborn of his beloved Rachel. You probably know the basics. Joseph gets a flashy coat of many colors, and his brothers burn with envy. Then come the dreams. Joseph tells them he saw 11 stars bowing to him. Not the wisest move when your brothers already resent you, so they hatch a cruel plan. At first, they think about killing him, but instead they sell him into slavery, and Joseph ends up in Egypt. I often wonder how Joseph felt during those moments, betrayed by his own blood, shackled in a caravan, heading to a foreign land. Sometimes the very people closest to you can hurt you in ways strangers never could. But here's the stunning twist. While Joseph seems to be falling lower and lower, from favorite son to slave to wrongly imprisoned, God is actually positioning him for something far bigger. A famine that saves a nation years later. Joseph rises to power in Egypt after interpreting Pharaoh as troubling dreams about 7 fat cows swallowed by 7 thin ones, predicting years of abundance followed by devastating famine. And who comes knocking for grain when famine strikes? None other than Joseph's brothers. They don't recognize him at first, but after a brilliant emotional sequence of tests, tears, and confessions, Joseph finally reveals himself. His words to them are some of the most profound in all of Scripture. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Honestly, how many times have we looked back at something that nearly broke us, only to realize later that God was weaving it into a bigger, redemptive story? From honored guests to oppressed slaves. So Jacob and all his family, 70 people in total, moved to Egypt under Joseph's protection. They settle in the region of Goshen and thrive. This becomes the nucleus of the 12 tribes, even though they're far from their promised land. But generations pass, and Exodus 1 says, then a new king, to whom Joseph meant nothing, came to power in Egypt. Just like that, everything changes. The Israelites are enslaved, forced into brutal labor under the hot Egyptian sun. They build cities for Pharaoh. They groan under the weight of oppression. And yet, the more they're afflicted, the more they multiply. It's almost as if God was saying, you can't crush the people I've chosen. In fact, try it and watch them grow. Moses, the burning bush, and the impossible call. This sets the stage for one of the most dramatic rescues in human history. Enter Moses, born under the shadow of genocide. Pharaoh had ordered every Hebrew baby boy thrown into the Nile. Moses' mother hides him in a basket. He floats downriver, and who finds him? Pharaoh's own daughter. Talk about irony. The future deliverer of Israel raised in the very palace that enslaves his people. Years later, Moses sees an Egyptian beating a Hebrew and kills the Egyptian, then flees into the wilderness for 40 years. He's a shepherd, probably thinking his story is over. But God loves using people who think they're done. Then comes the burning bush moment on Mount Horeb. God calls Moses to confront Pharaoh and lead the Israelites out. Moses argues, pleads, tries to dodge the call, but finally, reluctantly agrees. The Exodus, a new birth for 12 tribes, you know the rest. The plagues devastate Egypt, each one a direct strike against an Egyptian deity. Blood, frogs, locusts, darkness, then the final blow, the death of the firstborn. That's when Passover is born. God instructs the Israelites to put lamb's blood on their doorposts. When death sweeps through Egypt, it passes over every home marked by the blood. Can you see the foreshadowing? Thousands of years before Jesus, God was already painting a picture of a sacrifice that would spare his people. Finally, Pharaoh cracks. The Israelites leave. 600,000 men on foot, plus women and children, and estimated 1 million people. They pass through the parted Red Sea, while Pharaoh's armies drown behind them. This is more than an escape story. It's the moment the 12 tribes truly become a nation, forged in the crucible of suffering and divine deliverance. Real-life examples, preserving identity under pressure. You know, I was reading a story recently about the Jewish community in Ethiopia. For centuries, isolated from the rest of the Jewish world, they still kept their customs, their memory of Israel, even their longing to return. Despite persecution, despite poverty, despite being surrounded by entirely different cultures, their identity survived. It's like an echo of these ancient tribes, scattered, oppressed, yet never erased. Or take the Jewish communities in Spain during the Inquisition, forced to convert under threat of death. Many secretly kept observing Sabbath and kosher laws. They passed down traditions in whispers. In secret, symbols carved into door frames. The perseverance of the 12 tribes isn't just a biblical phenomenon. It's a living reality we can still trace in these communities today. Mount Sinai, covenant and law back to the wilderness. God brings the Israelites to Mount Sinai, where he gives them the 10 Commandments, plus a whole body of law that would shape their society, morality, even their festivals. Imagine this ragtag group of ex-slaves camped at the foot of a smoking, trembling mountain, thunder, lightning, a voice like rolling waters. They're terrified, understandably. But this is where God officially seals his covenant. You will be my treasured possession among all peoples, a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. So where do we leave off? Right at the foot of Mount Sinai, a trembling mountain, lightning flashing, a voice like thunder. This is where the 12 tribes get their national DNA, a covenant with God that sets them apart. But here is something we don't always realize. While God was faithful to his promises, the tribes struggled constantly. They wavered between incredible moments of trust and devastating lapses into rebellion. Wandering and the next generation after Sinai, the Israelites were supposed to march straight into the promised land. But when they sent spies into Canaan, 10 out of 12 came back terrified. We looked like grasshoppers next to them, they said. Only Joshua and Caleb from the tribes of Ephraim and Judah trusted God. Because of their fear, the Israelites wandered 40 years in the desert until that doubting generation died out. Imagine watching funerals day after day for decades, a constant reminder of what fear and disobedience cost them. Finally, a new generation stands ready to enter Canaan under Joshua's leadership. The tribes cross the Jordan River on dry ground, echoing the Red Sea miracle. They march around Jericho. The walls tumble down, and Israel begins to claim the land promised to Abraham centuries before. Dividing the land, 12 tribes take root. The land is then divided by lot among the tribes. Judah gets the hill country around Jerusalem. Benjamin receives land just to the north. Ephraim and Manasseh, Joseph's sons, who each become their own tribes, get prime territory in the central regions. Each plot is tied to promises, responsibilities, and blessings. This is when the 12 tribes start developing distinct personalities and destinies. Judah rises in prominence, eventually becoming the royal tribe. King David, Solomon, and ultimately Jesus come from this line. Levi has no large territory. Instead, God gives them cities scattered throughout Israel because they're set apart as priests. Dan, sadly, becomes a center for idolatry. Reuben, Gad, and half of Manasseh choose to settle east of the Jordan, a decision that creates complications later. Their stories show us how choices ripple through generations. A tribe's initial decision can chart a course for centuries. From united kingdom to tragic split for a time, under David and Solomon, all 12 tribes unite into a powerful, prosperous kingdom. Jerusalem becomes the glittering capital. The temple is built, a permanent dwelling place for God among his people. But after Solomon's reign, everything fractures. 10 tribes in the north break away to form Israel, leaving Judah and Benjamin in the south as the kingdom of Judah. This split has massive consequences. The northern tribes are repeatedly warned by prophets, but continue in idol worship. Eventually, the Assyrians conquer them around 722 BC, scattering them across their empire. These are the famous lost tribes of Israel. The southern kingdom of Judah lasts about 135 more years. Then Babylon invades, destroys Jerusalem and the temple, and hauls them into exile. But not forever. Stories of incredible survival. Here's where it gets fascinating. Unlike so many ancient peoples swallowed by conquest, the Jewish people, descendants of these 12 tribes, survive. I once read about a letter from a Jewish community in Yemen written in the 1500s, still carefully tracing their lineage back to the tribe of Judah. Or consider the Beta Israel in Ethiopia, who for centuries kept their customs without even knowing about the later books of the Bible. Then there's the Bnai Manasseh in India, who claim descent from the tribe of Manasseh and observe customs astonishingly close to ancient Israel. Even after Roman destruction, Islamic conquests, the Crusades, the Inquisition, pogroms in Eastern Europe, the Holocaust, somehow, the Jewish people have never vanished. It is as if God has promised to Abraham, I will make your descendants like the stars. Simply can't be broken, no matter how dark the night. Why does all this matter now? So why am I telling you this whole sweeping story of promises, failures, exile, and survival? Because it's not just their story, it's our story. The same God who kept his word to Abraham through millennia of chaos is the God who invites you into covenant today. Even when Israel stumbled, worshiping golden calves, chasing after idols, ignoring prophets, God never said, "That's it, I'm done." His faithfulness didn't depend on their perfect obedience. Isn't that comforting? Because let's be real, we all fail. We all have moments where we're like Reuben, compromising, or Dan, chasing after counterfeit gods, or Judah, making terrible choices but somehow still part of God's redemptive plan. A modern lesson in trust. Think about modern Israel for a second. In 1948, after nearly 2,000 years of being scattered, they became a nation again, right back in the same sliver of land God gave Abraham. No other ancient people group has ever done that. It's like watching an Old Testament prophecy walk out of dusty pages onto your nightly news. It tells me that God finishes what he starts. If he could keep a promise over thousands of years, through empires rising and falling, through exile and holocaust, what makes us think he'll give up on us? For me, studying the 12 tribes isn't just a history lesson or a niche fascination. It's a reminder that God's faithfulness is bigger than my failures, stronger than my circumstances, and longer than my lifetime. It means if you feel like you're wandering in your own desert right now, maybe wrestling with doubts or waiting for a promise that seems delayed, you're in good company. The same God who kept his word to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob still keeps his word today. So keep wrestling like Jacob, keep watching like Joseph, keep hoping like Moses' mother placing her baby in a basket, because the story isn't over yet. If this video opened your eyes, hit like and subscribe. Tell me below which tribe story challenges or inspires you most. Maybe it's Judah's redemption, or Joe's ascendance, or Levi's unique calling. Your comment might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and above all, keep trusting that the author of this story is still writing yours.